I regret filing that missing persons report. The argument was stupid. Toothpaste. Sarah always squeezed from the middle. I always scolded her for it, a habit she picked up from her mother. It was a stupid, petty thing to argue about, but the tension had been building for weeks, ever since the insomnia really took hold. "It doesn't matter, Liam," she'd said, her voice tight with a weariness that mirrored my own. "It's just toothpaste." "It's not just toothpaste, Sarah. It's about respect. It's about being considerate of other people." I knew I was overreacting, that the darkness creeping into my mind was twisting everything, but I couldn't stop myself. Sarah just sighed, the kind of sigh that deflated me more than any shouting match could. She turned away, switched off the bathroom light, and went to bed. I lay awake for hours after that, staring at the ceiling, the shadows playing tricks on my eyes. Every creak of the house sounded like footsteps, every rustle of leaves outside the window like a whispered threat. By the time the first hint of dawn painted the sky, I was exhausted, but sleep remained stubbornly out of reach. Sarah was gone when I woke up. The bed was cold, her side untouched. I checked the bathroom. Empty. The kitchen. A single coffee cup on the counter, half full, suggesting she'd intended to stay. Her car was in the driveway. Her keys were on the hook by the door. Her purse and phone were missing, though. "Sarah?" I called out, my voice cracking in the morning stillness. No answer. I told myself she'd gone for a walk. She loved walking in the woods behind our house. Cleared her head, she'd say. Or maybe she went to see her brother David. He lived about an hour away, in Beacon. They were close. But she would have told me. She always told me. Hours crawled by. I tried calling her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I called David. He hadn't seen her. He sounded genuinely concerned, which only made my anxiety worse. David was unreliable, always had been. But he loved his sister. By noon, panic had taken root. I called the police. Detective Reynolds arrived in a dark sedan. He was a big man, with a weary face and eyes that seemed to see right through me. He asked a lot of questions. Where was she last seen? Had we argued? Did she have any enemies? I hated the questions. I hated the way he looked at me. Like I was already guilty. Mr. Righty. Walker. People don't just vanish into thin air, he said, his voice flat. There's usually a reason. We need to understand what happened leading up to this. The search began that afternoon. Police cars lined our quiet street. Neighbors stood on their lawns, whispering and pointing. I saw Mrs. Henderson, our elderly neighbor, shaking her head and clucking her tongue. She always knew everything that was going on. The police searched the house, the yard, the woods behind our property. They found nothing. That night, I didn't sleep at all. Every shadow seemed to writhe and twist, taking on menacing shapes. I kept seeing her face, Sarah's face, pale and frightened, calling out to me from the darkness. The nightmares started the next night. Vivid, horrifying dreams filled with grotesque figures and whispering voices. I'd wake up gasping for air, my heart pounding, the sheets soaked with sweat. Detective Reynolds kept calling. He wanted to know if I remembered anything else. Anything at all. "Mr. Walker, we're running out of leads. Your wife is still missing. We need your help." The pressure was crushing me. The lack of sleep was making me delusional. I started seeing things, fleeting glimpses of shadows moving in the corner of my eye, hearing whispers when I was alone. One afternoon, Mrs. Henderson stopped me as I was getting the mail. "Terrible thing, Liam," she said, her voice low and conspiratorial. "Terrible. This town, it's got a dark history, you know. Things happen here that people don't talk about." She leaned closer, her eyes glinting with a strange intensity. "Disappearances, they happen more often than you think. People just vanish, never seen again. Some say it's the land, it's hungry." I dismissed her as a crazy old woman, but her words burrowed into my mind. A week after Sarah disappeared, I decided to retrace her steps. I walked the path she usually took through the woods, the one she used to clear her head. The leaves were turning brown and orange. The air was crisp and cold. That's when I saw them. Carved into the trunks of several trees, barely visible beneath the moss and lichen, were strange symbols. They looked ancient, almost pagan. I took pictures with my phone, my hands shaking. Then I found it. Under a pile of leaves, half hidden in the dirt, was a single earring. Sarah's earring. The one I gave her for her birthday last year. I showed the pictures to Detective Reynolds. He seemed unimpressed. "Mr. Walker, these could be anything, kids playing around, some kind of nature group. As for the earring, it could have been dropped weeks ago. He wasn't taking me seriously. He thought I was crazy." I confided in Mark, my work colleague and closest friend. He listened patiently, but I could see the concern in his eyes. "Liam, you need to get some sleep. You're not yourself. Maybe you should talk to someone. A therapist, maybe." I started taking sleeping pills, but they only made things worse. The nightmares intensified, and the hallucinations became more vivid. I saw figures standing in the shadows, their faces contorted in silent screams. David came by a few times. He seemed genuinely worried, but there was something off about him. He avoided eye contact, and his answers were vague. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. The police investigation stalled. They found no new evidence, no witnesses, no sign of Sarah. Detective Reynolds' visits became less frequent. His voice on the phone grew colder. "Mr. Walker, we've exhausted all our leads. We're going to have to put this case on hold unless new information comes to light." I was on my own. Driven to desperation, I started researching the symbols I found on the trees. I spent hours online, poring over ancient texts and obscure websites. I discovered that they were part of an ancient pagan script associated with rituals and sacrifices. The pieces started to fall into place. Mrs. Henderson's stories about the town's dark history, the disappearances that were never solved, the strange symbols in the woods. I had to find out what was going on. I went back to the woods, following the trail of symbols deeper and deeper into the darkness. The trees grew thicker. The air grew colder. I felt like I was being watched. Then I found it. A clearing, hidden deep in the heart of the woods. In the center stood a crude altar made of rough-hewn stones. It was covered in dried blood. And lying on the altar was Sarah's phone. I felt my mind snap. The world around me began to twist and distort. The trees seemed to writhe and groan. The shadows danced and flickered, taking on monstrous forms. I saw Sarah, standing at the edge of the clearing, beckoning me towards her. "Liam," she whispered, "come to me." But as I took a step forward, her face began to change. Her features melted and distorted, transforming into something grotesque and inhuman. Her eyes glowed with a malevolent light. I screamed and stumbled backward, collapsing to the ground. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was the altar, stained with blood, and the monstrous figure looming over me. I woke up in a hospital bed. My head throbbed. My body ached. Detective Reynolds was standing beside me, his face grim. Mr. Farnolds was standing beside me. "Walker, we found you in the woods. You were incoherent, delusional. You kept talking about an altar and blood." They went back to the clearing, of course, but they found nothing. No altar, no blood, no phone. Just an empty clearing, bathed in the pale light of dawn. They diagnosed me with a severe stress-induced psychosis. They said I was imagining things, that the pressure of Sarah's disappearance had pushed me over the edge. The case went cold. The community turned against me. They whispered behind my back, accusing me of being responsible for Sarah's disappearance, either directly or indirectly. I went back to therapy. I tried to rebuild my life, but the nightmares never stopped. The images from the woods haunted me. One day, I received an anonymous package in the mail. Inside was a photograph. It was a picture of Sarah, taken in the woods the day she disappeared. She was smiling, looking happy, but in the background, lurking in the shadows, was a barely visible figure. Its face was obscured by darkness, but its eyes were burning with an unholy light. I realized the horror wasn't over. I had stumbled upon something far bigger and more sinister than I ever imagined. Something that had been lurking in the shadows for centuries, waiting for its next victim. I went back to the house. It was empty now, filled with chilling memories. I tried to find some peace, but the silence was deafening. Then I heard it. A whisper carried on the wind. Liam. I knew what I had to do. I drove back to the woods. The trees were bare now, their branches reaching up like skeletal fingers. The air was heavy with the scent of decay. I followed the path to the clearing, the one where I found Sarah's phone, the one where I saw the altar, the one where my mind broke. I stood at the edge of the clearing, listening. Liam, her voice, soft and seductive, calling me into the darkness. I took a step forward and disappeared.